Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. General Hospital spoilers for Wednesday, April 30th, state that Drew Cain will receive a harsh wake-up call, while Jack Brennan discloses a suspect. Lulu Spencer will also give her next interview. So let's talk about what's going up in Port Charles. Although Nina Reeves will question her Drew trap on Wednesday's episode, it's too late to stop it now. Drew has already made a public scene, and will eventually end up in a contrived infidelity situation. Thanks to Jacinda's excellent efforts. Willow Corinthos never dreamed Drew would betray her with another woman. But when she returns home to Mayhem, it will appear that this is exactly what happened. Of course, Drew will be equally frightened when he awakens to a disgusted Willow. Drew won't remember much from last night, but he may ultimately piece together the puzzle and argue that he was framed. Meanwhile, Curtis Ashford will brief Laura Collins on Drew's out-of-control behavior at the Savoy. Drew's actions appear to be about to make front-page news due to Lulu's phone camera and the story she plans to sell. Curtis will hope that their Drew difficulties are resolved now that the congressman has made such a mess of himself. Lulu will then contact Alexis Davis for an interview, hoping to elicit information regarding her mother-daughter reunion with Sam McCall as an adult. Alexis will also vent at some time, so she might have some nasty words to say about the Cassadines. When Carly Spencer arrives from Los Angeles, she will inform Jason Morgan of Sonny Corinthos' close call at the hospital. Brick saves Sonny's life, but the situation could have been much worse if he had appeared just a few seconds later. Jason will learn about the recent nurse turmoil, and wish he could have helped safeguard Sonny as well. Brennan will have a theory to pass along. Brennan has already showed signals of suspicion towards Jen Sidwell, so he may point the finger at him during a conversation with Carly. Whether Brennan believes Sidwell or someone else is behind the ordered Sonny hits, he will undoubtedly speculate on Wednesday's GH episode. Finally, Trina Robinson will give Kai Taylor the opportunity to back out of his cutting-edge treatment, especially given the stakes. General Hospital spoilers indicate Kai will stick to his decision and make more optimistic forecasts about the future. But is disaster on the way? Mike visits Sonny from the other side, and Brick saves the day. What a day at Port Charles. If you missed General Hospital on Monday, April 28, 2025, you missed a lot, so here's a recap. Jocelyn Jax is wandering at night when Vaughn emerges and jumps her, trapping her in a chokehold. He asks if she has already forgotten all of her training. He then inquired about the status of her task with the professor. Joss claims that she is catching up on the lesson because she needs to do so before securing an assistant position. Vaughn advises she go to the Savoy to see her mark. The Savoy is very busy this evening. Trina Robinson and Kai Taylor went out on a date the night before Kai's dangerous surgery. General Hospital recap April 28th. Mike visits Sonny from the other side and Brick saves the day. Curtis Ashford comes, and Kai requests to talk with him. He hopes Curtis isn't furious with him for not following his advice on the procedure. Curtis informs him that he respects his decision and wishes him a successful surgery. Curtis then meets with Jordan Asford to discuss her new role with Jen Sidwell. She adds that she needed to reconcile with Drew Cain for the sake of Sidwell's business. This implies that in public, she and Curtis will appear to be on opposing sides. Curtis tells her that he hopes working with Sidwell is worthwhile in the end. Trina talks to Emma Drake till Henry Dalton steps in. Emma has applied for the professor's summer research assistant post, and she makes sure he understands how badly she wants it. Henry eventually ends up at a table, speaking with Anna Devane, as Jocelyn watches from the shadows. Brad helps Portia set up Drew. After successfully blackmailing Portia Robinson for a spell, Brad Cooper now finds himself in the opposite situation. She first asked him to obtain Drew's complete medical information, and once he dropped the packet on her desk, Brad was handed his next assignment: steal ketamine. He delivered the medicine to Portia, and after he left her office, she called Nina Reeves to inform her that they had everything they needed to set Drew up. Tracy tries to turn Gio against Sonny. Tracy Quartermain approaches Gio Palmieri and asks if he may vote in Port Charles. She advises him to vote for Laura Collins as mayor and then vote for the referendum against Sonny Corinthos. Gio becomes enraged at the prospect of it because Sonny has financially supported him since his mother died. He also reminds Tracy of all the positive things Sunny has done for Port Charles. During their disagreement, Gio texts Emma to come to the queues for backup. General Hospital recap April 28th. Mike visits Sunny from the other side and Brick saves the day. Alexis versus Christina. And Molly. Christina Corinthos and Molly Lansing Davis are standing in Alexis Davis's living room, carrying the commitment paperwork. Christina doesn't understand why her mother would consider locking her up. Alexis requests to talk to her alone, but the sisters refuse to be separated. Alexis informs Christina that she had no choice but to prepare the documents due to her behavior, but she never filed them since she changed her mind. Alexis tap dances around the facts until Christina rushes out and visits her daughter's cemetery. Once there, she confesses to trying to kill Ava Jerome and wonders her own sanity. Molly ultimately arrives and emphasizes the reality that they only have each other in this world. Therefore they must remain together. Read this. General Hospital spoilers. May Sweeps unleashes shocking revelations you cannot miss. General Hospital recap April 28th. Mike visits Sunny from the other side and Brick saves the day. Sunny talks to Mike. While stuck between two worlds, Sunny's heart surgery was successful, but he must now focus on his recuperation. While Carly Spencer is on the phone, a random nurse is in Sunny's room prepared to inject him with something. Brick unlocks the door and demands to see her identification. As she reaches for a gun, Brick shoots her first. He then calls the WSB to come retrieve their agent. Carly enters the room and panics at the sight of the nurse on the floor. Jack Brennan eventually appears, telling a narrative about being dispatched by the LA Bureau since he was in LA for a meeting. Carly buys his narrative and tells him not to tell anyone about Sunny's surgery. While Sunny was profoundly sedated, Mike Corbin paid his son a visit on the other side. During their emotional reunion, Sunny assured Mike that he was correct about everything. Mike said that he could never tell Sunny what to do. He needed to make his own decisions. Sunny says that he has been considering leaving the business for a long time, and Michael's injury in the firebombing further reinforces his belief that it is time. After their conversation, Mike promises to meet Sunny again when the time comes. Sunny awoke in his hospital bed as Carly arrived for a visit. She reassured him that he would be all right, but that he had missed a lot. Drew's threat, Jordan's assurance, and Jocelyn's bold move. On the next GH, the drama heats up with non-stop action, smart deceit, scary threats, and a character blinded by overconfidence. General Hospital spoilers reveal. A preview clip has been posted for Tuesday, April 29, 2025. It depicts Jordan Ashford giving an assurance concerning Jen Sidwell. Drew Kane threatens Portia Robinson. In addition, Jocelyn Jacks makes a daring move for Professor Henry Dalton. Continue reading to learn more about what will happen in today's episode of ABC soap drama. Jordan Ashford's assurance. Let us begin with Jordan, who is working for Sidwell but solely to bring him down. Jordan assures Curtis Ashford that she has the situation under control, but he remains concerned. Sidwell is a dangerous individual who has taken hostages and committed atrocities. Jordan may believe she poses the greater threat, yet overconfidence can lead to her death. Drew Kane's threat. Over with Drew, he threatens Portia. In a preview clip, the shady congressman threatens Portia to get it done, or he will tell Curtis everything. The good doctor appears scared, but fans know Nina Reeves has already devised a strategy starring Jacinda. Later, Portia interrupts Drew and Jordan. Drew then creates a large scene. Willow Tate Corinthos returns home from Germany after a disappointing visit with Michael Corinthos, and she is in for a terrible surprise. Despite Nina's plan and Willow's unpleasant return, Drew attempts to argue his point later. So Nina and Portia's strategy might be both successful and unsuccessful. Jocelyn Jack's bold move. General Hospital teasers for today's episode hint that Jocelyn will make a big move. In a preview clip, Joss can be seen cuddling up to Henry at the pub. Jocelyn flips her hair and asks if there is anything she can do to increase her chances of landing the research assistant post. But is the professor really going to fall for that? What about Emma Scorpio Drake? Later, Anna Devane becomes suspicious. Tuesday, April 29, 2025. Fans can also expect Tracy Quartermaine to surprise Giovanni Gio Palmieri. Later, Gio talks to Jason Morgan, who offers some kind advice. Jason encourages the young man to forget what he's heard. That might be easier said than done, however. Marco Rios continues to bond with Lucas Jones. Which narrative are you looking forward to the most? Share your opinions in the comments area below. Remember to keep watching ABC soap operas to see what happens next. General Hospital spoilers hint that Nina Reeves' ploy to catch Drew Kane cheating on Willow Corinthos could go disastrously wrong. Nina and Portia Robinson devised a scheme to get Drew dismissed from his relationship with Willow, involving prostitute sex worker Jacinda. Never mind that even Nina doesn't believe Drew would cheat. Would Drew cheat on Willow? Will Willow believe Drew when she discovers he cheated? According to GH spoilers, Jacinda plays the role flawlessly and attempts to persuade Willow that Congressman Drew wanted her. But what happens when Perfect Man Drew tells a different narrative and suspects he's been drugged? If he believes he was put up, only one person he knows would have done so, Nina. Drew could blame Nina for the incident and conclude that she wants to damage their relationship. It could develop to the point where Willow remembers informing Nina while flying back from Germany, giving her insider knowledge to set a trap. Willow smells ruse. Willow believes Drew walks on water, thus she may trust him regardless of the facts she sees. Of course, Slimeball. Drew claims that he loves her and would never throw them away, and Willow should believe him. What exactly does this mean for Nina? Willow could depose Mom Nina if she believes she planned to ruin her happiness with Drew. If this occurs, Nina's plan will backfire and bring about her darkest fear. The loss of Willow all over again. Let's be honest. None of the players in this play are innocent. They've all been digging a lot of dirt. Who will break up Dina? Nina's strategy could be exactly what Drew needs to turn Willow against her mother. But then again, Drew slept with Nina, so how will Willow react when she finds out? We predict Willow will want to know if Nina set Drew up. How would Nina deal with the confrontation? She's a fantastic liar, and we can see her digging her heels in deeper. She just hopes Jacinda doesn't disclose the beans. Alternatively, Nina may decide she is tired of all the lies and tell her daughter about her affair with Drew. This would freeze everyone's shorts. Drew's awful wake-up call. Brennan's suspect Lulu's next interview. The morning sun filtered through the thin curtains of Drew's apartment, casting long jagged shadows across the floor. He groaned, rolling over in bed, his head pounding as if a jackhammer had taken up residence inside his skull. The events of the previous night were a blur. Flashing lights, loud music, and too many drinks. But as he forced his eyes open, the sight before him made his blood run cold. A body. Not just any body, someone he recognized. The face was pale, lifeless, the lips slightly parted as if caught mid-sentence. Drew scrambled backward, nearly falling off the bed, his heart hammering against his ribs. How? Why? His hands trembled as he reached for his phone, but before he could dial, a sharp knock at the door froze him in place. Drew? Open up. We need to talk. The voice was unmistakable, Detective Brennan. Drew's stomach twisted. Had Brennan been watching him? Did he already know? Swallowing hard, Drew forced himself to stand, his legs unsteady beneath him. He had no choice but to answer. Meanwhile, across town, Brennan sat in his car, drumming his fingers against the steering wheel. He had been following Drew for days, ever since the first body turned up. The connections were too strong to ignore. Drew had been at every scene, always just on the periphery, always with an alibi that was just a little too convenient. But this time Brennan was sure he had him. The evidence was mounting, and if Drew slipped up now, it would be enough to bring him in. His phone buzzed, a message from the lab. The preliminary report was in, and it confirmed his suspicions. The same fibers found on the first victim were present on this one too. Fibers that matched a rare fabric Drew had purchased just weeks before the killing started. Brennan smirked. Drew had been careful but not careful enough. But Brennan's confidence wavered for a moment. Something about this case didn't sit right with him. The killings were too clean, too precise. Drew was messy, impulsive. This level of planning didn't fit. Still, evidence was evidence, and Brennan wasn't about to let a hunch get in the way of closing this case. Back at Drew's apartment, the door creaked open. Brennan's sharp eyes took in every detail, the disheveled bed, the empty bottles on the nightstand, the way Drew's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Rough night? Brennan asked, his tone deceptively casual. Drew swallowed. You could say that. Brennan stepped inside. his gaze lingering on the rumpled sheets. "Mind if I take a look around?" Drew's pulse spiked. "Do you have a warrant?" Brennan smiled, slow and knowing. "I don't need one if you invite me in." The tension in the room was suffocating. Drew knew he was trapped. If he refused, it would only make him look guiltier. If he let Brennan in, there was no telling what the detective might find. Just as Brennan took another step forward, Drew's phone rang. The General Hospital recap for Tuesday, April 29th, shows that Drew Kane and Jacinda made a scandalous display at the Savoy, giving Lulu Spencer a hot story. At the Savoy, Professor Henry Hank Dalton attempted to obtain Anna Devane's phone number, but she declined before leaving. Jocelyn Jack slipped in next to Professor Dalton, wondering how she could improve her chances of getting the research assistant position. Professor Dalton liked Jocelyn's excitement, but he implied that she'd be better off looking for another summer job because there were more eligible candidates. Meanwhile, Cody Bell had a night out with Lulu, who told him about her renewed journalism career and the adoption story she was working on. At Jitch, Portia Robinson spoke on the phone with Nina Reeves, who now had the ketamine and was ready to administer it to Jacinda for their Drew takedown. Drew came blowing into Portia's office and warned her to get Curtis to use Aurora to bash Sunny, giving her a week to do so. When Nina returned, she gave Jacinda the ketamine vial and directed her to the Port Charles Grill, knowing Drew would be there. Tracy Quartermain hinted to what Sonny Corinthos had done to Jason Morgan's brother at the Quartermain estate, prompting Giovanni Gio Palmieri to confront Jason. Jason suggested that Gio disregard what he had heard, but Gio insisted on hearing the entire narrative. After revealing that Sonny murdered A.J. Quartermain, Jason backed his boss and friend's version of events. According to Sonny, he walked in on A.J. attacking Ava Jerome and shot him to save her. Jason insisted on believing Sonny because it was what he told him. Despite Joe's admiration for Tracy, he eventually had to follow his instincts about Sonny, just like Jason. Tracy summoned Drew to a meeting at the Port Charles Grill, where she expressed her desire to band up against Sonny. Drew begged for the Quartermain name in exchange, so Tracy consented and predicted Drew would use it once their scheme was successful. Jacinda entered the restaurant and discreetly spiked Drew's drink at the bar. Drew was brought that drink by the waiter, who observed how strong it was and began to experience the effects almost immediately. After Tracy had left, Jacinda made her move by asking if the seat across from Drew was taken. Drew took Jacinda to the Savoy after she urged him to go somewhere more lively. Drew was already all over Jacinda and behaving wild, so he created a big spectacle in front of the other customers. Lulu grabbed her phone to take photos, seeing the potential for a hot story tomorrow. Portia arrived and stopped Curtis Ashford from tossing Drew out, knowing he was about to harm his own name. Jordan Ashford realized this would reflect negatively on Drew's alliance with Jen Sidwell, so she began attempting to get Drew out of there. Nonetheless, Drew was undeterred and eventually fired body shots at Jacinda on the bar, as Lulu recorded the scandalous scene on her phone. Sidwell was visiting the Port Charles Grill with Lucy Coe when they ran into Marco Rios and Lucas Jones. Marco and Lucy introduced themselves before continuing their respective evenings. Marco told Lucas about his family background, thus Lucas was astonished to learn that his sister was Blaze aka Allison Rogers and his mother was Natalia Ramirez. Lucas also opened up about his own family before joining Marco at the Savoy, where he met Jocelyn. Drew's public display was also witnessed by the three of them, since it was impossible to ignore. Anna rejoined Emma for coffee and discussed seeing Professor Dalton at the Savoy. Anna persuaded Emma to reveal they both graduated from the same university and moved to Port Charles at the same time. Despite Emma's insistence that it was a coincidence, Anna remained dubious about the relationship. According to General Hospital teasers, Anna will continue to investigate the full truth, so stay tuned for further information on what Emma is hiding. If you're a fan of Finola Hughes, you're probably aware that she rose to prominence several years before landing the part of Anna on General Hospital. Who could forget the woman who played Laura in the 1983 movie Staying Alive opposite John Travolta's Tony? A few admirers decided to show how much they loved her in the film by creating a doll of her role. Hughes shared a video showcasing the one-of-a-kind doll created by the famed artist Hex Tion, saying, "She is gorgeous and I am so happy she gets to live with me." In the video, the soap vet showed a close-up of the doll, who is wearing the same dress as Laura, and said, "Hex Tion, you did an incredible job with this." This is absolutely stunning. And to those fans who thought of doing this to celebrate Hugh's 40th anniversary on the ABC soap this month, she added, "Big thank you to Jen Moore, Amy, Denise, Aurora, Sly, Rachel, Dana, Kat, Lisa, Nikki, Teresa, Kelly MCP, Queen Anna, Nadia, Michelle, Kathy, Courtney, Holly, Shayna, Erica, Brian L., Tarita, and Kathy." Hugh's mini-me sparked enthusiasm among fans and others in the comments section. Many of her castmates responded, including Cassandra James, who said, "I'm obsessed with you." Kimberly McCullough said, "Stop that right now. I want one." Christina Wagner exclaimed, "OMG, dazzling disco girl." Vanessa Marcel also reminded everyone of the iconic passage from the film in which Hugh's Laura snaps at Tony. "Everybody uses everybody, don't they?" General Hospital recap. Drew and Jacinda's scandalous display at the Savoy April 29th. The drama in Port Charles reached new heights on Tuesday, April 29th, as General Hospital delivered another intense episode packed with betrayal, passion, and surprising revelations. Drew Cain and Jacinda Peralta were definitely the center of attention, with their outrageous exhibition at the Savoy leaving onlookers reeling. The consequences of their actions threatened to send shockwaves across the lives of several people, paving the way for even more heated confrontations in the coming days. The episode began with Drew Cain in an introspective mood, clearly struggling with the weight of recent events. His relationship with Carly Corinthos has been tense, and his developing attraction to Jacinda has only exacerbated matters. Meanwhile, Jacinda has been dealing with her own conflicting emotions, torn between loyalty to her family and an evident attraction to Drew. Their chemistry had been simmering for weeks, but at the Savoy, it finally erupted in a way that neither of them could ignore. The Savoy, which is usually a place of elegance and prudence, became the setting for their indiscretion. Drew and Jacinda had agreed to meet under the pretense of discussing business, a poor justification that deceived no one, least of all themselves. The tension between them was evident from the moment they met eyes across the room. Their talk began innocently enough, with Drew expressing concern about Jacinda's recent difficulties, but it wasn't long until their comments took on a deeper, more intimate significance. As the night progressed, the barriers they created around their emotions began to disintegrate. Every small encounter, whether it was a lingering touch or a charged glance, fueled the fire. Then, in a fit of reckless abandon, Drew drew Jacinda into a passionate kiss, utterly unaware that they were being watched by other Port Charles residents. The kiss was strong, fueled by months of pent-up need, and it left both of them breathless. Unfortunately for them, their moment of vulnerability was not overlooked. Nina Reeves was one of the witnesses, having dined at the Savoy with her fiancé, Sonny Corinthos. Nina's acute eyes missed nothing, and her attitude changed from horror to something far more calculated. She has never turned down an occasion to stir the pot, and learning that Drew, Carly's ex, was involved with Jacinda, a woman with her own murky ties to Sonny, was too delicious a piece of gossip to keep to herself. Meanwhile, across town, Carly was distracted with her own problems. She had been attempting to mend ties with Drew following their previous fallout, but her efforts were hampered by her lingering affections for him and developing doubts about his connection to Jacinda. She had no idea that her worst thoughts were being played out in real time at the Savoy. When the news eventually reaches her, the consequences are bound to be catastrophic. Carly has never taken betrayal lightly, and Drew's actions could very likely end their relationship for good. Drew and Jacinda swiftly separated once they returned to the Savoy, both realizing the seriousness of their actions. Drew, ever the reasonable one, quickly regretted his impulsiveness, fully aware of the repercussions. Jacinda, on the other hand, appeared to be less sorry, with an expression that mixed resistance and desire. The two exchanged tense words before splitting up, but the harm had already been done. The consequences of their scandalous behavior were felt very immediately. By the end of the episode, stories were spreading like wildfire throughout Port Charles. Sonny, who is always protective of the people he loves about, was visibly upset when Nina casually dropped the bombshell in his lap. His relationship with Jacinda has been problematic to say the least, and the fact that she was linked with Drew, a man who has a history of dispute with Sonny, only adds to the already toxic scenario. Meanwhile, Michael Corinthos was caught in the middle once more. As Drew's close buddy and Carly's son, He is in an unenviable situation. His loyalty is conflicted, and he is aware that whatever occurs next may further fracture his family. Willow, his wife, tried to console him, but she too could see the storm approaching. As the program concluded, the stage was set for the inevitable confrontation. Drew and Jacinda's passionate encounter may have been brief, but the consequences will be far-reaching. Carly's heartbreak, Sunny's rage, Nina's scheming, and Michael's angst all promise to make the upcoming episodes must-see TV. Themes and implications. The April 29th episode of General Hospital was a masterclass in soap opera narrative, seamlessly weaving together different character arcs in a way that felt both natural and thrilling. Drew and Jacinda's daring kiss was more than simply a romantic moment. It was also a cause for catastrophe. Their acts have revealed the fragile nature of trust in Port Charles, demonstrating once more that secrets are never kept hidden for long in this town. Drew's internal conflict has become a regular subject in recent weeks. He is a principled man who has always tried to do the right thing, but his emotions have frequently led him astray. His bond to Jacinda symbolizes a change from the steadiness he previously had with Carly, and this newest blunder could cost him dearly. In contrast, Jacinda has always been a wild card. Her intentions are frequently cloaked in mystery, and her willingness to engage in this affair indicates that she is far more complex than she admits. Carly's oncoming tragedy is arguably the most sad aspect of this story. Drew was supposed to be different, and she'd had enough betrayals. His fall from grace in her eyes will definitely result in some of the most emotionally charged situations in future episodes. Sunny's reaction is another wild card. While he and Drew have disagreed, they have also had moments of mutual regard. Jacinda's involvement, however, complicates everything. Sunny has a mile-wide protective streak, and if he sees Drew as a threat to someone he cares about, their fragile truce could be broken. Nina, who is always looking for an opportunity, will most certainly capitalize on this issue. It's unclear if she intends to use the circumstance to put a wedge between Carly and Drew or to pursue her personal agenda with Sunny, but one thing is certain: she will not waste this opportunity. Shiloh's original exit from the canvas was as spectacular as his appearance on the show. After manipulating and exploiting vulnerable people through his Dawn of Day cult, he appeared to die. However, in soap operas, death is rarely permanent. Characters frequently reappear in different identities, and Shiloh's cunning makes him an ideal target for such a twist. The appearance of Hank Dalton at this particular time seems too serendipitous to be ignored. His name has a striking resemblance to Hank Archer, a possible identity Shiloh might have used to avoid detection. The timing of Hank Dalton's arrival adds fuel to the fire. Port Charles is currently enmeshed in a number of high-stakes storylines, many of which feature persons who have been profoundly touched by Shiloh's decisions. Sam McCall, Drew Kane, and Willow Tate all have personal reasons to fear his return. If Hank Dalton is Shiloh, his reemergence might reopen old wounds and spark new battles. The authors have a tendency of returning prior villains in unexpected ways, and Shiloh's probable comeback would fit right in. Another significant piece of evidence is Hank Dalton's actions. Little is known about him, but his interactions have been marked by an unsettling serenity and cunning charm, characteristics that typified Shiloh. If he begins targeting individuals associated with Dawn of Day or expresses an extraordinary interest in their lives, the connection will be difficult to ignore. Additionally, the writers enjoy delivering small hints prior to a major reveal. The resemblance between Dalton and Archer may be more than a coincidence. It might be a clue leading to a surprising reveal. However, not everyone is convinced. Some fans believe Hank Dalton could simply be a new enemy with no connection to Shiloh. Soap operas frequently incorporate unscrupulous characters to heighten the tension, and Hank may be one of them. However, given the show's history of resurrecting villains and the unanswered mysteries about Shiloh's fate, the hypothesis bears significant weight. If Hank Dalton turns out to be Shiloh, the consequences will be enormous. One key hint could be Hank's relationships with specific characters. If he expresses a particular interest in Willow or begins manipulating weak people in ways similar of Dawn of Day's methods, the connection will become more difficult to reject. Willow, in particular, has had a painful relationship with Shiloh, and his return would compel her to confront her past in a devastating way. Similarly, Sam and Drew would be lured back into the nightmare from which they believed they had fled. The writers have also been known to play with audience expectations, teasing returns before delivering something completely unexpected. However, the build-up around Hank Dalton seemed deliberate. Whether he is Shiloh or a red herring, his arrival in Port Charles will undoubtedly cause a stir. The intrigue around his genuine identity demonstrates the show's ability to keep viewers guessing.